The fire from the Arizona was so intense that even a couple hundred feet from the ship, the oil was on fire. So these guys that fell over, came up, got the film on their bodies, were like human torches.
We seen men jumping off the ship into boiling oil and water, swimming through all of this debris, trying to make it to the beach.
The old oil was on the water. It wasn't a pretty sight, but you didn't have no choice. You either go down with the ship or you jump in the water.
Fire was about 3 times as high as my house from the oil that was burning. But I'll tell you, I swam underwater that morning, and I broke surface twice before it hit the beach. The hottest breath of air I ever breathed in my life.
It's a sight I'll never forget. I watched the Arizona, the West Virginia, the Tennessee, the Nevada, California, Utah, all engulfed in smoke and flames and all sinking.
This summer, while visiting Arizona, I decided to go to the Arizona State Capitol Museum in Phoenix. Now, I have fond memories of the Arizona State Capitol. My dad worked here. I remember coming here and exploring the museum as a child, as a preteen. So I was excited to come back and look at the museum with a fresh set of eyes. What have they done to it? How have they kept it up? Is it better than I remember? And honestly, it's kind of not better than I remember. It's really lacking a lot of the Arizona story. Arizona has an amazing history. As a native Arizonan, there is good and bad, but I am proud of the cowboy culture, the mining culture, the native culture, the Hispanic culture that is Arizona. And I was hoping they would have more of that, and they just didn't. They had an entire gallery dedicated to Martin Luther King. Fine, I love Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther King never set foot in the state of Arizona. I just kind of felt that they really missed the mark on highlighting some of the Arizona story. But there are a few exhibits that I really liked and was glad that they highlighted, like the Buffalo Soldiers at Fort Huachuca. In 1913, black soldiers of the 10th United States Cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers, arrived at Fort Huachuca and remained for almost 20 years. The Buffalo Soldiers would distinguish themselves in the Spanish-American War and charged up San Juan Hill. Speaking of San Juan Hill, when we went into the governor's office right here, we found something, but we weren't quite sure what it was. Oh, what's this flag, Dad? See, I got kind of excited because if you notice the pictures above the flag, it's Theodore Roosevelt and the Rough Riders on San Juan Hill. This can't be the flag of San Juan Hill, is it?
The Rough Riders came from this part of the woods.
There's no sign of what this flag is.
Maybe this is that flag right there. Can you read that?
Yeah, it says the following battle in U.S. Following the battle and U.S. capture of San Juan Hill, the U.S. flag was raised over the site. Colonel Theodore Roosevelt and the 1st Volunteer Cavalry, known as Rough Riders, posing with the flag at the top of San Juan Hill. But they don't tell us if this is the flag. We asked the volunteer that was working there. I have scoured the internet and I have no idea where this flag came. Let me know, do you think this is the flag on San Juan Hill? Could it be from the USS Maine, or could it just be a old flag? Let me know in the comments what you think. But this is the exhibit worth coming to see. This is a piece of the USS Arizona. Look at this thing. Oh, look at her. She is bruised and battered and beaten. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. The Arizona was hit by several air-dropped armor piercing missiles. One of those missiles hit the explosive-filled magazine of the USS Arizona, sinking the battleship and killing 1,177 of its officers and crewmen. Unlike many of the other ships attacked that day, the Arizona was so irreparably damaged that it was not repaired for service in World War II. The shipwreck still lies today at the bottom of Pearl Harbor beneath the USS Arizona Memorial. It was dedicated to those who died during the attack, and the memorial is built across the ship remains. However, not all of the ship is still in Pearl Harbor. Salvaged artifacts from the USS Arizona are on display in several locations around the United States, the majority of those artifacts being in Arizona. The museum not only has a piece of the wreckage, but it also has some artifacts from the USS Arizona from its time in service, as well as artifacts donated from some of the sailors that served aboard the USS Arizona, this bugle being one of them. October 7th, 1981. To whom it may concern, my name is Maurice Vincent, and I was still attached to the battleship USS Arizona, December 7th, 1941. My rating was Bugler first. My division officer was Ensign Whedon, and the officer in charge as head of the division department was Commander Fuqua. Ensign Whedon didn't make it, but I understand that Commander Fuqua went on to make admiral. I have had the ship's bugle for almost 41 years. Just before the attack, I had left for San Diego, California for further schooling, so I could make a higher rating as bugle master. The reason I had this bugle was because I was to go back to the ship upon completion of this school I was to attend. I am presenting this bugle to be placed in the state capital of Arizona among the rest of the treasures from the USS Battleship Arizona. Although I was reported killed December 7th, 1941 to my family, it was a miracle. It was a miracle that I lived because of the timing. I had applied for schooling in March of 1941 to the Bureau of Naval Personnel, Washington, D.C., and received my orders just before the bombs started falling. What is this?
This is awesome.
What is it?
It's the Silver Set from the Arizona.
This is the Silver Set from the USS Arizona?
And all of these pieces have depictions of something from Arizona on them.
All of these pieces are absolutely gorgeous, and they do depict some part of Arizona, whether it is the Sonoran Desert, a landmark of some sort, a building. These have such beautiful history engraven on them. It really is gorgeous. Unfortunately, I could not get my actual camera to work, so bear with me. I had to use my phone here, but I'm going to show you some of the pieces that I really liked. Now, I don't know the history of how this set ended up here. As you can see, there's San Javier de Bac. If you haven't gone to see that video that I did, go see that video. We toured the church there in Tucson. It was very beautiful. But I don't know how this silver set made its way off the ship and back to the museum. It's pretty obvious that this silver set did not go through the attack on December 7th, 1941, just with how pristine it is and beautiful. I could be wrong, though. I couldn't find the history of where the set, how the set ended up from the ship back to the museum. But it looks in very, very good condition and doesn't look like there is any kind of salt erosion or anything from sitting in the ocean for too long. So my guess is it's probably not from, they didn't salvage this from the attack. There's a beautiful painting of the USS Arizona in all of her glory. What I can probably guess is that as the USS Arizona was preparing for heightened tension with Japan, maybe they removed some things that really weren't necessarily needed, like the Silver Set. But it is beautiful. You can see this is a depiction of the Grand Canyon on these beautiful bread baskets is what these are. They're absolutely gorgeous. One, it looks like that is the USS Arizona herself on the bread basket. So beautiful. And the beautiful desert that I love so much here in Arizona. These have depictions of the two Arizona state capitals. That first one is the one in Phoenix, along with a beautiful copper-plated plate. This is the original. The first capital was actually in Prescott, and it was a log cabin before they moved to Phoenix. Copper is one of the big elements that are mined in Arizona, and this punch bowl and glasses, these punch cups, are copper plated, giving a nod to Arizona's mining heritage. It's so pretty. Oh my gosh, I love the cacti. I love the Hoover Dam. That is the Hoover Dam, if you were wondering. So beautiful. These cups are so wonderful. I even asked if they did any reproductions of these, if I could buy a reproduction of any of these items here. Like I said, they have 59. I don't think I even showed you all of them. Here is a nod to that copper mining heritage. They have an entire miner here, plated in copper at least, and it just goes to show how much copper funded the state of Arizona. Like, again, there are a ton of artifacts given personally by some of the sailors that were on the USS Arizona. So this is Louis A. Conter, Ancient Order of the Deep. So Louis Conter was stationed on the USS Arizona during Pearl Harbor. As we finished up our time in the Arizona Capitol Museum, it was getting to be a little late in the afternoon, and with it being July, it was well over 100 degrees outside. But there was one thing that I really, really wanted to go see, and that was the Wesley Bolin Memorial Plaza, which is directly across the street from the Arizona State Capitol. On December 7th, 1990, the upper part of the USS Arizona's signal mast was dedicated and donated to the state of Arizona. The mast is located 1,177 feet away from the dome of the Capitol building. This is symbolic for the 1,177 sailors and Marines who perished on the USS Arizona during the attack at Pearl Harbor. There are 2 gun barrels that were dedicated in 2013. This memorial is known as the Guns to Salute the Fallen, and it honors the service members of Pearl Harbor and all the World War II veterans that served. There's a 14-inch gun barrel that belongs to the USS Arizona and a 16-inch gun barrel that belongs to the USS Missouri. These 2 gun barrels are located 405 inches apart, and each inch represents 1,000 American lives lost in World War II. These 2 gun barrels signify the beginning and the end of World War II. The beginning being the USS Arizona and the attack on Pearl Harbor, starting America's entry into World War II, and the ending being the USS Missouri that witnessed the surrender of Japan. The gun barrel from the USS Arizona is in really good condition, and the reason for that is because it actually was not on the ship at the time of the attack. They had rotated out some of these gun barrels, and this gun barrel was on rotation in Northern Virginia. However, the gun barrel did return to service when it was placed on the USS Nevada during World War II. It would be used to bombard the shores of Iwo Jima and Okinawa before making its way to Tokyo Bay. So both of these guns did see some pretty considerable action during the war. Between the two guns, you'll find hanging stainless steel nameplates for each of the 1,902 Arizonians who were killed in World War II. From here, you will find one of two anchors from the USS Arizona. This anchor is painted blue, and it sits at the end of the plaza. The anchor was dedicated to Arizona on December 7th, 1976. Surrounding the base are the names of the lives that were lost on the USS Arizona. The second anchor is on display at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Many historians believe that there was also a third anchor, but no one is sure about its current whereabouts or if it was even salvaged off of the ship. Today, a memorial sits atop the USS Arizona, and she serves as a watery grave for those who did not survive the attack.